Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Gina Marie Alamberti. She is Director of Visitor Services for the New England Air Museum. It's her first time on the show, so first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
So tell everyone what the New England Air Museum is. Well,
we're a great aviation museum, a lot of history, a lot of patriotism. We serve all ages. We have over 80 aircraft. We're open 7 days a week, 10 to 5. Connecticut's a huge aviation state. We have a lot of information on Sikorsky, Pratt & Whitney, Doman Helicopters, Command. It's a great museum. It's, a lot of local people have never been there, don't realize, we're there or what we have to offer. People come in the door and they're amazed how big we are.
Now, Connecticut, it's got such a history of aircraft in general. If you think about all the companies that are in the state now or have been, it seems like this would be a perfect place for an air museum, right?
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, we've been compared to the Smithsonian. We're not, obviously not, but I mean, we're in the same ballpark. We have a lot of aircraft.
How big a facility is it? I mean, we're going to have stills and images and stuff like that throughout the course of the show, but talk about the size of it.
We're pretty massive. We have 3 large display hangars. We have a restoration hangar, which we restore our aircraft in. We have 2 storage facilities, and we're actually adding on to one. So we're pretty large.
Yeah.
If you go by us, you don't see all the hangars behind us.
Well, I mean, when you're talking about an air museum, it has to be pretty big anyway to accommodate what you have in there.
Right. I mean, one hangar itself holds one massive airplane, the B-29, which is a 4-engine bomber.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
And can you go in it and tour it and everything, or can you just look at it?
We have special aircraft that we don't normally let people in, but you can do VIP tours.
Okay.
If we were to let everybody in, all of our special aircraft, our prize-winning aircraft, it would deteriorate the aircraft and it would ruin it.
Right.
In the long run.
Museums are meant to have you kind of almost look at it and admire it from a distance, as opposed to get inside it and stuff like that.
And it is that way also. But we also want people to come into the museum and actually get in aircraft. It's very hard for kids to come into the museum and just look at an airplane.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So there are aircrafts that we do open that you can actually go into the cockpit.
Wow, that's excellent.
So yeah.
So they can kind of almost experience it a little bit. So how far back can you go as far as the history? Because eventually I want you to tell a great story about how like a tornado wiped it out and it was rebuilt. But can you go back to the beginning?
We have a whole timeline of aviation. We have the first surviving Connecticut aircraft, which is the Bloom basket that the Brooks brothers built.
Okay.
So we start right there in the 1800s, and we were right up to now.
No wonder you have to have such a large facility to be able to, because when you look at a timeline, there's a lot of aircraft that have come and gone since then.
There are a lot of aircraft. We have a replica of an aircraft that a 17 and 18-year-old built that lived in Connecticut, actually built. We have a replica of it.
A teenager built an airplane?
Teenager, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so we have a lot there.
Why is Connecticut such a big aircraft in general state anyway?
Well, Igor Sikorsky started his company down in Stratford. He built flying boats to land and take off in water, and it just went on from there.
Right. You got Pratt & Whitney, so like you said.
Pratt & Whitney. We had Doman Helicopter, which is a Bloomfield-based company. Command, which is right in the same area. So there's a ton. So when people go there,
a show like this is great for you because maybe the word isn't out yet. Like you said, if you drive by, you can't miss it. But a better job of getting the word out so people can experience it and take advantage of all that it has to offer. So when you go there, it's like not just necessarily just go and tour. You offer things, and we were talking about this off the air, birthday parties and different individual tours. Like schools, do they do field trips there and stuff like that?
We do a lot of field trips.
Yeah.
It's hard nowadays because schools are having a hard time coming up with the funding, especially the busing is very expensive. But we do a program called SOAR for Science, and we actually go out to different companies and we generate the money to bring the schools in here, into our museum. Okay. So we raise the money and we go after the schools and they come to us. And the educational director designed that whole program.
Oh, that's great.
So we have tons of SOAR programs that come in. And we do have field trips. We have senior groups. We have vet groups. We have the Red Hat Club that comes in. So yeah, we get lots of groups.
And does that, the fact that you have these programs to give schools the ability to have a budget to be able to go, does that take up a lot of extra time? There's a lot more schools coming in if you are coming up with the funding for them, right?
Yeah, I mean, it helps them and us in both ways because we have the groups coming through and they're not looking for the money.
What's like one of the biggest questions people would ask, whether kid or otherwise, coming in when they see these exhibits? Is there like a most popular question?
Are the aircraft real?
Okay.
Are they real?
Can this thing fly right now?
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes, because you know, a lot of kids have never even seen airplanes.
That's very true.
A lot of kids have never taken a flight.
Right.
So they come in and that's the question, is this real? Because they don't know anything about it.
And that's probably the most close-up they've ever been.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, obviously, some of these are very old, but still, you know, an aircraft of that size, regardless of what it is, that's, you know, that could be the closest they've and it's unfortunate they've never had a chance to be in a plane and travel.
And that's why our museum is so special, because you know, we get the kids to understand all about aviation.
Yeah.
Whether it's just looking at it or trying to figure out if it's a glider, you know, a biplane, triplane, like they're just clueless. So it opens their eyes.
You do helicopter type stuff in there too?
Oh, we have tons of helicopters.
Now, I know how far back you go, but as far as the aircraft that are in part of the museum, how current do you get with the stuff?
Well, I think our most current one is probably the F-14 Tomcat.
Oh, that's
fairly,
yeah.
You know, late 70s, early 80s.
That's like Top Gun style.
That's
you know,
the plane they flew in Top Gun.
Oh my
Tom
goodness! How many
Cruise,
times
yeah.
have you answered that
All
question?
the
Have you ever met Tom Cruise in
all
that
the time.
plane?
Oh, we'd love to get him there.
Yeah.
You know, he's big into aviation. He has his own aircraft.
Yeah, yeah, he's a pilot too. So,
So
yeah.
that's probably our newest. We do have a Command Sea Sprite helicopter who, I'm not exactly sure how new that is, but it's still being used in the war. And
Now, as far as the museum goes, you can go in, you could pay an admission, you could take a tour, but you can also become a member, have a membership. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, our membership is actually really great right now because it's the rest of this year and next year. So it's free admission for the next year and a half.
Oh.
Yeah. We do tons of special events, so you don't have to pay to get into the special events. Right now you can get into, for the months of July and August, you can get into the Trolley Museum, which is about 10 minutes away from us, the Lutz Museum in Manchester, and we're giving away a 4-packet of tickets to the Children's Museum in West Hartford. So buying a membership at our museum, you get tons of benefits at other museums.
Yeah, that's
It's totally
great.
worth it, and it's very, you know, it's only $75 for the family, so it's pretty cheap.
Yeah, so that's not just for one person, that's for the family.
That's for the entire family.
And, you know, and you could kind of make probably take even more than a day if you wanted to hit all the spots that this membership covers, you know?
Well, that was kind of the goal for us. You know, a lot of people don't have the money to travel, so we want to do like a staycation kind of a package where they could hit, you know, you could hit the Trolley Museum and our museum in one day. But if you're an avid, you know, history buff or aviation buff, you could stay at our museum all day.
Yeah.
There's so much to see and so much to read. I mean, there's a lot of people that leave and be like, oh my God, I wish I knew this was all here. I would have, you know, gave myself a little bit more time.
I bet you one of the biggest things now is taking pictures next to them and then putting them on their Facebook page.
Oh yeah, and that's the best thing about for us is the social media because
Yeah.
it really gets the word out about us.
Absolutely.
And pictures are, you know, worth 1,000 words. So.
Now, when you go, are there explanations of everything right there? Is it an automated thing, or people?
There's signage throughout the whole museum, but the great thing about our museum is we have docents that are always on the floor. So once you go into the museum, they actually will pull you aside and work with you. They will, you know, maybe get you into a cockpit or give you a half-an-hour tour. Or even longer, if that's what you want. So you leave, you're amazed because you never thought you'd get that personable experience.
Are there any exhibits here that change over the course of time? Does something come in or something go out?
I mean, we try to rotate our exhibits. The reason we're building a storage hangar is to be able to rotate our exhibits, bring aircraft in, restore aircraft, and also get the aircraft that are outside inside so it doesn't deteriorate anymore.
So depending on the time of year, since you brought that up, is there anything different that's going on in the winter versus the summer? We'll get to all the events that are coming up, definitely. But as far as inside goes?
Most of our museum is inside. 95% of the museum is inside. We have about 10 planes outside. So, you know, we're open 7 days a week, like I said, so wintertime's a great time to come. It's slower.
I was going to say, is it
It
a
is
slower
slower,
time?
so there's some times where you get the whole museum to yourself, but it's a big museum, so.
Yeah.
It's a good time to come whenever.
You can get lost in there, literally.
You can.
You?
It's 3 large hangars, all connected, so you can't get lost. But there are some people that can't even find the other hangar because they just don't realize how massive we are.
And you were mentioning there's a guy who has a plane that he comes from Rhode Island and Charlestown or something, and he kind of is at your place.
He has a house in Rhode Island and a house in Connecticut, and yeah, he'll fly into the little airport. I think it's Quonset and
Right.
up here to Brainerd, and yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and he's a tour guide. He's very knowledgeable, and he does our tours.
Speaking of, tour guide, your job is different, but director of visitor services, what exactly does that mean? What does your job entail?
Everything.
Yeah, it's different all the time,
Well,
isn't
I mean,
it?
for us, we're a nonprofit. Like I've told you before, we only have 4 full-time employees, so we all do so much to make the museum work. So I schedule the tours, I do the promotional stuff, advertising, marketing. I'm in charge of our docents, special events. So just a little bit of everything.
Is memberships and admission, is that the only form of income that the place gets, or do you have grants or anything like that?
We do a lot of, yeah, we get a lot of grants. The development department handles that, but yeah, we have to.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be open if it wasn't
How
for the
about
grants.
like corporate help? Do they
We get a lot.
involved?
We get a lot of corporate help,
Yeah.
and that's a lot of the.
And that's huge. That's key.
Well,
that's
we need
huge.
that.
Yeah.
Like we're a nonprofit. The state doesn't own us. I mean, they have helped us a little bit, but grants is what keeps us afloat.
Yeah.
I mean, admission it helps us a little bit, but it's a small percentage of the money we generate.
Being a nonprofit and not being able to ignore the economy that we're in now. I mean, do you feel like the pinch a little bit?
We do, and we have sometimes, but overall, we're doing just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are.
That's great. Because you wouldn't think that if a person has a budget that necessarily something like this would be in their vein of what they can spend money on.
Well, we have dedicated people that love the museum.
Yeah.
That's their passion, and we do have some big funders, personal funders that do help us also. But it's their passion, and they want to do what they want with their money.
Let's talk about some events that are coming up, because that's one of the big things you wanted to spread the word about. So what's the most recent one coming up?
The most recent one is our Father's Day Open Cockpit, which is June 16th. And you get a chance to get into an aircraft. We have about 10 to 12 of the aircraft open. It's a lot of fun for everybody, especially fathers.
Yeah.
A lot of people always had a dream of being a pilot, so they come in and they play pilot for the day. It's a great time. We have food that's there, so you literally can stay all day.
Do you have people that actually are pilots more so that come in, or people that just aren't, but just are fascinated by it?
It's a variety. We have
Yeah.
pilots that come in, or we just have people that love aircraft and the history behind it. And we're very inexpensive. It's only $12 for an adult, $6.50 for children, free parking.
Yeah, it's like a deal you can't beat. We were talking off the air a little bit about women in aviation. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we do that once a year. It's a great program designed all around women. It's a program to introduce to children, young women children, Girl Scouts, that there is a big population with women in aviation. You can be a pilot, an aircraft mechanic. You could be an engineer. A lot of little girls don't think they can have anything to do with flying, and they can. So Caroline, she's the educational director, and she developed the program, and it's a big hit.
When little girls come in, are they fascinated by it too? Does that kind of like pique their interest when they look at this stuff? I know a lot of it is older stuff, but did they think, wow, you know what, I could do that. I could fly one of these.
Yeah, I mean, when they get in the door and they learn about aviation, or talk to our docent about flying, or listen to the women that flew, or we have several reenactors that are pioneers in aviation, so they hear their stories, and hopefully it goes from there.
Yeah, they either develop the love for it, and like you said, the people that you have coming into your place, the older people, they're avid fans of it. They love it, and that's the reason they're passionate about it.
That's really what it is. I mean, we hear some stories at the counter that just, they're great. They're wonderful.
Do you have like some old timers coming in that've got their, World War II stuff on, and they're
All the
like,
time.
I flew one of these things.
All the
Oh,
time.
yeah?
We get that all the time, and
They could probably give a tour.
They could. They
Yeah.
are very knowledgeable, but to see how excited they are, makes everything worthwhile.
What's the website for the museum?
It's www.neam.org.
We'll put a graphic up on the screen too. So when people go there, what can they see at the website?
It has all of our special events. It has a whole database of our collection of airplanes. We have a huge collection of engines. Everything we have in the museum. Our history, our mission. We have a 58th Bomb Wing, which is it's a memorial that we built, and they helped build their aircraft, the B-29, and a hangar. So we have a lot of information on them. So you can get everything on the website.
And also, we mentioned this before, the museum and you guys are active with social media too, right?
We are. We have our Facebook page, our Twitter page, and those are very important to us. That gets the word out, but it also lets the visitors, you know, interact with us,
comment.
tell them their stories, what a good time they had, and learn about what we're doing. So,
I would argue that you know, everybody has a website, but it's static. So for the most part, so I would argue that a Facebook page, really from a lot of companies, is equally, if not more important, because there is that they can comment right there, they can like a picture that they see, and since it's networked, that's really the best way of getting the word out.
It really is. I mean, there's a lot of people like our Facebook page that aren't local, but then there's a lot of people that are. You know, I'll put a status up there, and I'll get 50 to 100 likes on it because they love. It's like a family.
Yeah.
They love the museum.
How many likes? How many people like the page so far?
I think we're up to 4,300.
4,300.
4,300, and it just keeps going higher and higher. I just put the first Tuesday of every month is our docent meeting, and I assign the month's tours and programs to them. And I just I took a picture of them and Carly, and I put it on our Facebook page. And one of the gals commented that, you know, she had her son's wedding at the museum Saturday night, and what a great job everybody did.
So there you
go. So
go.
it's that whole piece.
Weddings, you can have weddings
We
at the
did,
New England
we
Air
had
Museum.
one Saturday night.
Is that right?
Yeah,
really?
we do a lot of corporate events too. There's companies that will rent out the hangar to either have their retirement party or their banquet, or you know, we do all that too, and that's a good money generator also for us.
And so people who want to have like their, you know, retirement or wedding, they are obviously big fans of the museum and what's in it, right?
Right. Well, with you know, Connecticut being a huge aviation state, a lot of those companies will have their corporate events there.
Good point.
A lot of people that are in the military will have their weddings there because they're you know, in the Air Force or the Army or whatnot. We also have a huge conference space, which companies rent the conference space for a day to a week long. So they do their conferences, but they also, you know, tour the museum. So it goes hand in hand.
And like you said, that's a good revenue generator.
Yeah,
there
and we
too.
really have to do everything to stay afloat.
Yeah.
And we do.
For the weddings, what's your role at one of those things? You organize it, set it up, but do you just stay out of the way?
I don't personally do it. Debbie Reed, our assistant director, does it. But you know, she's involved a lot. They could we recommend, you know, caterers and, you know, event planners, or they can do their own thing and have it at the museum. We'll work with you as much as possible, or you kind of can do your own thing and just have it there.
So that Father's Day event was probably the most, it's the one that's coming up the soonest, but can you talk about any other events that are coming up, some big things?
Our big event that's coming up is our Great Aviation Adventure, which is June 22nd and 23rd. It's basically a aircraft display show. It's not a flying show.
Right. Not an air show that
it's
you would
not
see.
an air show, but it's we have aircraft that are flying in that are static that you actually can go see. And you know, nowadays air shows are being cut back because of furlough and everything. So this is really special. Yeah. And the great thing about it is you actually get to go airside and see these aircraft. Where can you go to an airport and go on the runway? Yeah. You can't anywhere.
Security and safety.
You can't anywhere. So this is very special and very unique that you can do this. And you're right on the Bradley Airport, so not only are you enjoying the aircraft, you're enjoying all the planes that are taking off and landing.
Right. Yeah, because there's a real airport right next to you, and you're just watching everything go.
You're right on the airfield.
Yeah.
So it's really neat. And a cool thing about that weekend is we have a B-29 flying in that will be doing flights.
Now, how big is a B-29?
I'm sorry, not a B-29, a B-25.
25.
His Panchito is flying in, and he'll be doing flights both Saturday and Sunday. It's a pretty big aircraft. It's, you know, it's not as big as a B-29, but there's
close up.
Yeah, and we'll be selling flights, and you'll get to see that fly all day in and out, you know, up and down. About 6 times a day. I think there's 6 positions, but you can go on the website and see all the positions. You can pick where you want to fly, what seat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And where does the flight? Does it kind of just go around?
It's a half-an-hour flight, so we'll go around the whole, you know, area.
Yeah, you'll see stuff. You know.
Yeah, it's really neat. We had the Fifi, the last surviving B-29, flew in last year, so that was pretty cool. So it'll be similar to that. And the good thing about the air show is we're going to have, you know, all varieties of aircraft. We're going to have helicopters. We're going to have home builds. We're going to have, you know, the B-25 bomber. We're going to have, actually, Bombardier is going to be bringing over their corporate airplane, the Challenger, and actually letting people inside it. So we're going to have all different types of aircraft.
When you get in, when you use the definition air museum, do you get involved in anything that touches upon space at all, or is it strictly?
You know what, we do a little bit, and we're working on that. We're actually adding stuff to our space exhibit. We just brought a space suit in. We have Apollo 13 exhibit, but we're trying to go down that road more because that's
the future, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and having Hamilton, you know, right there. Well, it's not Hamilton anymore, but yeah, we're trying to get a bigger exhibit. Space is our problem. We don't have very much space.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that too. I mean, you're building right now, but what else? How far can you expand in any other direction?
We have a lot of acreage, but you need money to do all that. The state did give us a bond to add on to our storage building, but as far as exhibit buildings, we're really running out of space.
Gotcha.
And aircraft aren't small.
And you know what? When you start talking about space versus air, those machines get a lot big. You know, the shuttle.
Yeah.
You know, that's a fairly
that's
big.
Huge.
Yeah,
the
fairly
Intrepid
big.
just got one. Yeah, it's pretty big.
When you first joined everybody at New England Air Museum, did you have like a knowledge of air, you know, machines at all? Zero.
Zilch.
So you had to learn on the fly and on the go. And how quickly did you pick it up?
You know, it took me a while, and I still am learning. I didn't realize that there were so many different aircraft.
Yeah.
Like cars.
And variants.
In what they did.
Yep.
I had no idea, and I learn as I go, and I love aviation now. I have a passion for it. I look up and I see aircraft and I get very
How often
excited.
do you get in and do some flying yourself?
You know, I've been up a few times in some little private airplanes, a Cessna. You know, I fly to Florida and stuff like that. I might take a flight on the B-25 when it comes in, which would be really special.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that's
if you can handle a little Cessna, most people get more nervous on those than they do on like a
Well,
big,
I mean, I didn't fly it, but
but
I
you
would
were
say,
on it.
yeah, I could. Yeah, I think it would be a really neat experience for me being at the museum to be able to go up in that.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
So the future looks bright, and that's a good thing. I know, you know, you got to stay afloat, and there's always a struggle as far as finances, but that's everybody, especially nonprofits.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of time left in the show. So is there anything else specifically you want to talk about, get the word out about New England Air Museum?
You know, I really just come to our great aviation adventure. It's going to be a great weekend, and you won't have the opportunity to do something like this, to actually go airside and see these aircraft. You won't.
If weather is an issue, what happens in that case?
Well, it'll still be running. The planes will still be there.
Yeah.
The B-25, the flights might be, you know, postponed a little bit until it clears up, but it will still go on.
What do you see down the road in the future? I know you're talking about adding the space stuff in there, but what's long term?
Long term, we would love to build a new hangar, just a UTC hangar, to put all the UTC aircraft in it. Because, you know, Sikorsky, Hamilton, like I said, just have everything in one hangar, aircraft and engines. And then that would give us more space throughout the other hangars to add more exhibits.
And like you said, you have acreage, but you need the funding to be able to expand on. And, you know, maybe, you know, shows like this get the word out, maybe a few more memberships here, maybe a little bit more corporate sponsorship there. Who knows? You know, it's a fascinating field. And here's the great thing about this. There's a future, because we talked about the possible segueing into the space aspect of it. There's a future. It's not like this field is going away.
It doesn't end.
It's evolving into space. You know?
And we want to keep it going, and that's why our museum is so important.
Yeah.
To not let it go. It is history, it is passion, and it's the future.
You've done a good job, but sell people one more time on why they should get a membership to New England Air Museum.
Well, like I said, it's free admission to the museum, all of our special events, and the best time right now is because it's good for the rest of this year and next year. And it includes the local museums you can get into. You know, it's a great package. One thing I need to tell you is we have a new exhibit. It's called our Flight Simulator exhibit.
Ooh, I like that.
And we have 7 stations, and you actually get to learn how to fly. It's what pilots train on.
Right.
So it's not a video game. You actually have a pilot that trains you on how to fly. So you could pick the plane you want to fly into, where you want to fly into, the weather conditions. And we do charge a small fee, but if you're a member, it's free. So you can come in anytime and fly our simulators.
It's funny you should say that, because people have played Flight Simulator on their computers for years.
Yeah, I mean, there is the Microsoft program and the X-Planes, but this is, you know, it's 3-screen. You actually have the joystick, the yoke, the pedals, the throttle.
It's what you have in a real plane.
It's very realistic.
Yeah.
So if you're a member, you don't have to pay. It's always free.
Oh, that's good, right?
Yeah.
That's a good selling point.
And, you know, the
fun.
museum is great for all ages. It's really great for 2 to 100. So you could bring the family. They're going to get something out of it. And so are you.
Right. One more time on the website for people to go and learn more.
It's www.neam.org.
Can people get a membership right through the website?
You can. You can sign up right on the website.
Beautiful. Sounds good. New England Air Museum, what a fascinating place, and hope you get a chance to to visit it sometime soon. Gina Marie Alamberti, I got it right, Director of Visitor Services. Pleasure having you on the show. And by the way, we were talking about this off the air. Next time we're going to come up to your place so that we can shoot some footage there and really experience it.
Yeah, you really need to see the museum and how massive we are and what we have to get the feel of our museum.
Appreciate you being on the show today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
And thank you for joining us for another edition of For the Record. You can see this show and many others on our YouTube site. In the meantime, I'm Sean Murphy. We'll see you next time. Take care.